Good evening. Tonight, wife of abducted staff of Nigeria Meteorological Agency in Plateau State regains freedom as Chief of Air Staff directs air tactical teams to provide aerial support for soldiers fighting bandits. Parents of abducted students of Kaduna Forestry College meet with state government over efforts to rescue them. Court orders payment of 210 million naira compensation to victims of police brutality in Bauchi State. And more than 30 people killed as two trains collide in Egypt. Plus, business, sports, news from Abuja, and later, international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, NNPC holds increase in ex-depot price of petrol pending the outcome of ongoing negotiations with organised labour and other stakeholders.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Eagles arrive in Cotonou for the AFCON qualifier against the Squirrels of Benin Republic.
And from Abuja, Vice President Oshimbajo advocates structural plan to implement policies for national development.
We begin in Plateau State, where the abducted wife of a staff of the Nigeria Meteorological Agency kidnapped earlier today has regained her freedom. The 32-year-old woman was abducted from the staff quarters at the Yakubu Gowon International Airport. Her abductors had demanded 10 million naira ransom before her release. Our correspondent had earlier visited the quarters to gauge the mood of the residents.
Hey Bang, the host community of the Yakubu Gowon International Airport is about 32.5 kilometers from Jos, the Plateau State capital. The quietness of the town, which also accommodates the staff quarters of the Federal Airports Authority, is disrupted after gunmen forcefully gained entrance into two apartments, abducting a 32-year-old woman, while another luckily escaped abduction. The victim's husband says he had earlier escaped from the abductors and hid in a nearby bush, only for them to return and made away with his wife.
Unfortunately, they picked up my wife and they went with her. So when they came, they demanded money from me, and I told them I don't have money. They called me yesterday around 10 in the evening. So they were demanding for ransom that I should give them 10 million, and which I don't have. And today in the morning they called again, so they were still insisting on giving them 10 million naira.
Raha Umar, the manager of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency at the airport, also had her apartment attacked as the assailants forcefully gained entrance, but she escaped through the rear door.
They tried to enter. I said, who is chasing them? Say, enter, enter. And they are trying to enter. So, as I'm hearing something like this, the next thing, I had a gunshot. They said that some of them at the back and some of them at the front. I was panicked to open the backyard. I said, oh, I have to take risk. I quietly opened the backyard gently and I bust out.
The management of Yakubu Gowon Airports visits the quarters to ascertain the circumstances leading to the abduction and ways of preventing future abductions. The vast and open land within the airport has been a security concern to residents of the staff quarters. All they're demanding is for the state government and security agencies alike to take bold steps to secure lives and property.
And in neighbouring Kaduna State, parents of the 32 abducted students of Kaduna College of Forestry today shelved their threats to begin a statewide protest in Kaduna if their children are not rescued. The planned protest was dropped after the parents held a meeting with the state government behind closed doors at the government house. Details of the session was, however, not made public, but our correspondent, Emperor Simon, who has been following the story, reports that some assurances may have been given to the visibly angry parents.
No one is free. No one is free. Until everyone is free. What do we want? Abaka 39. What do we want? Abaka 39.
A day after parents of the abducted students of Federal College of Forestry Mechanization Afaka in Kaduna State held a peaceful protest and prayers at the college premises. Representatives of the families are at the government house in Kaduna for a meeting with the state government. They are light, 6 of them in number, with hope that the meeting, which is the first in over 2 weeks since the abduction, would yield a positive outcome.
We have been praying for this moment, and since they invited us, we are hoping that they will find a lasting solution to some of these issues. And number one, number two, to also get our children back. We believe we are here. Maybe the government have worked beyond our expectation. So I hope that we are here, they will tell us to receive our children. That's what we believe.
After about 2 hours, the meeting ends, and one after the other, the parents come out. But security operatives would not allow for coverage. The meeting was held behind closed door at the government house, and those who attended the meeting include the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, heads of security agencies, including the police, the military, and the DSS. The outcome of the meeting was not made public to us because, according to the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, it will be counterproductive to speak to the press on the outcome of the meeting. The parents also would not oblige any interview. What we know, however, is the fact that this meeting is aimed at finding immediate solution to the rescue of the 39 abductees who are still nowhere to be found. From the government house in Kaduna State, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the father of one of the abducted students, Ibrahim Samak, has died after suffering a heart attack. Family sources told Channels Television that Mr. Samaki fell ill shortly after the news of his daughter's abduction was broken to him. Staying with security, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, says the Nigerian Air Force and other sister agencies have agreed to subordinate themselves to the Defense Headquarters under the leadership of the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo. According to him, the Defense Headquarters is responsible for the command and control of the entire armed forces of Nigeria, which also means that all ongoing joint operations and joint task forces are directly subordinated to the DHQ, and their commanders report directly to the CDS. He explains that the practice is obtainable in military organizations across the world, and the service chiefs have agreed to follow this path. Air Marshal Oladayo Amao made the comments in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, where he also directed the Tactical Air Command in Makurdi to provide support to the military's Operation Whirlstroke posted to the area.
We've been supporting the Operation Whirlstroke with the helicopters, and anytime they require or they request for it, we send the aircraft to them. The commanders here on the ground liaising with us at the headquarters, and anytime there is need for us to deploy the helicopters or the jets, we deploy immediately.
Well, the service chiefs seem to be going around the country this time. Are you plotting for comprehensive synergy to tackle the problems, or everybody will be doing their thing like it used to be?
This time around, the Chief of Defense Staff and the service chiefs are working together, and we are meeting also with the stakeholders. We believe that the problem of Nigeria will be solved by the whole government and whole society approach.
Meanwhile, soldiers of an unidentified battalion in the Operation Lafia Dole have staged a protest against their posting to a location in the theatre of operation. The aggrieved soldiers, according to sources at the May Malari barracks, besieged the headquarters of the Theatre Command, shooting sporadically into the air on Thursday night following their deployment. They cited non-payment of allowances and poor equipment as reasons for their rebellion. Some of the soldiers who spoke under anonymity recall how a whole unit that went for reinforcement when Mate was captured last month perished under superior firepower of the enemy forces. The media coordinator for Operation Lafia Dole, Colonel Ado Issa, however, told Channels Television that the situation was a mere administrative issue and has been addressed. He debunks the soldiers' claims, insisting that the army gave the insurgents a bloody nose in Mate and troops are currently doing exploits in the Sambisa general area. The media coordinator says the insurgents were not only defeated, but a cache of arms were recovered from them. To other stories, former head of state General Abdul Salami Abubakar has met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the State House. The meeting took place in the president's official residence, but details of the conversation between them have not been made public. After the closed-door meeting, President Buhari walked the former head of state to his car as he departed the villa. Shortly after that, the current chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, also met with the president. It's not certain what formed the crux of discussions, as no official statement has been released. Another civil war, that's a path Nigeria should never tread or experience again. This is according to President Muhammadu Buhari, who made the comments today as he pays tribute to the patriotic martyrs of the civil war, saying their glorious sacrifices enabled the unity of the country. The president further said that with 30 months of the civil war, Nigerians on both sides lost numerous lives, praying that never again shall the country experience such. President Buhari's comments is contained in a statement by his media aide after he received the world leader of the Tijani Islamic religious movement, Sheikh Muhammadu Nias, to Nigeria. The president thanked the Grand Khalifa and the Tijani movement for their profuse prayers for an end to the war and the reunification of Nigeria. And to health, authorities in Sokoto State have shut down the Government Girls College, Sokoto, for 2 weeks after 2 students lost their lives following the outbreak of gastroenteritis. The State Commissioner for Science and Technology, Kalu Haruna, confirmed the outbreak of the disease, noting that 70 students were affected and 50 of them have been discharged, with only 20 students still on admission. The Commissioner explains that health authorities in the state are working to put the situation under control. She, however, dismissed the rumor of contaminated water through borehole. As controversies over the effectiveness of the AstraZeneca vaccine continues, the president of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, Professor Innocent Uja, is urging those yet to take the jab to approach health workers and take the vaccine, assuring them that it is safe. The NMA president gave this assurance shortly after taking a jab at the National Hospital, Abuja.
The president of the Nigerian Medical Association is the latest public servant to take the AstraZeneca vaccine. He visits the National Hospital, Abuja, where he is received by the Chief Medical Director, Dr. Jaff Momo. After pleasantries, they move to the vaccine center where he takes the jab. Shortly after, he speaks on his experience.
As the president of Nigerian Medical Association, it's only good to give people confidence and hope to say that the vaccine is just quite normal. And I want to thank the CMD and his staff, because the reception is excellent. If we have this all over the country, everybody will rush to the hospital. I'm very comfortable here. And the process is seamless. You know, documentation is very good. And I didn't even feel any pain when I was giving the injection. By and large, I urge Nigerians to avail themselves. It's because I don't want to die yet. of coronavirus.
In part two, after the break, Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi blames politicians for rising insecurity. To stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Parents of abducted students of Kaduna Forestry College meet with state government over efforts to rescue them. Chief of Air Staff directs air tactical teams to provide aerial support for soldiers fighting bandits, says Defense Headquarters, which now takes lead in joint operations. And more than 30 people killed as two trains collide in Egypt. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has blamed Nigerian political elites for playing a role in creating insecurity in the country due to their negligence in providing quality education for the people. He made the statement at the 34th Convocation Lecture of the University of Calabar in Cross River State. The minister explains that the issue of mass poverty is not a creation of the current administration and warns that if poverty and inequality is not tackled promptly, it will overrun the system.
It's an ensemble of the academia, special guests and students of the University of Calabar at the school's conference center for the institution's 34th Convocation Lecture in the Cross River State capital. The arrival of the guest lecturer and Minister of Transportation, Chibika Amechi, in company of the university's management, kicks off proceedings as the school alumni leadership highlights the milestone of the university.
Thank you.
For the convocation lecturer, Chibika Amechi, inequality has promoted identity politics, and the negligence of the political class is responsible for widespread insecurity and poverty in Nigeria, which needs urgent attention.
We must not fail to recognize the responsibility of our elite in creating the problem of insecurity that we are facing today. In many parts of the country, the political elite failed in their responsibility to educate the majority of children of the lower classes. These children who were denied the right to education and a better life have grown up to find themselves with no other choice than to enroll in criminal undertakings such as banditry and terrorism.
The Vice Chancellor, Professor Florence Obi, who says the nation must align in unity for a better country, highlighted the university's role in downplaying ethnicity.
For us as a university, we are multi-ethnic people, but everybody in Nigeria and beyond. So we don't talk about ethnicity here. We are multi-ethnic university, and everybody in Nigeria, everybody in the world has opportunity of coming to the University of Calabar and studying here.
The Minister of Transportation and former Governor of Rivers State, recognition of your astute performance.
It is clear from the presentation that the nation has a huge responsibility on the shoulders, and the need for mass education cannot be overemphasized in closing the various gaps, promoting disunity and insecurity in the country.
Let's head over to our Abuja studios where Linda Kigbe has some more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Millicent. Welcome to Abuja. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says creating unrealistic plans and poor implementation are just some of the problems hindering Nigeria's planning efforts. He was speaking virtually at the 19th meeting of the National Council on Development Planning, where he reminded the attendees that social protection is at the heart of the Buhari administration's policy. State House correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
This year, the National Council on Development Planning looks at the challenges affecting development planning in Nigeria. Issues like lack of political will, plan indiscipline, and non-implementation of plans, which the Vice President says is a major challenge with Nigeria's planning efforts.
Implementation remains the Achilles heel of our planning efforts. Sometimes The implementation failures are due to resource and capacity constraints. But we must also ponder on the possibility that our plans might in some cases be unrealistic or not grounded in objective reality. In other words, is the lack of implementation due to the fact that our visions and plans have been unduly fanciful? Plans, of course, should be uplifting, ambitious, but they should make provision for overcoming resource and capacity constraints as well. Consideration should be given in this regard to scaling up the capacities for planning at the federal and state levels through training and professionalization of the planning cadres in the various ministries.
Continuing his engagement at the State House, the Vice President launches Nigeria's Sustainable Development Goals FinTech Hackathon. Professor Osinbajo affirms the federal government's commitment to leverage on FinTech innovations to address agricultural and energy challenges.
I think that with innovations, especially some of the great FinTech innovations, we're beginning to find that even the unreachable places can be reached with credit. And sometimes, it's amazing how, these farmers, especially in the hinterland, many of whom are illiterate, are actually able to relate very quickly to FinTech and to all of the various innovations around FinTech and access credit, access money directly.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo wants everyone who's about to take part in the fintech space to take advantage of the many opportunities that abound there. When it comes to national development, the Vice President wants every plan that has to do with Nigeria's development to take into cognizance the realities of the world and make allowances for those ever-changing realities. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
The chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Customs, Leke Abejide, says the CBN has procured 4 scanners for the Nigeria Customs to effectively inspect goods coming into the country. He says this is an improvement from the observations of the committee during its oversight functions earlier in the year, when there were no scanners at all the customs formations visited. He's assuring that the committee would work with the Customs Service to ensure that all border stations are equipped with scanners.
If ammunition are hidden in containers, it's impossible for you to get them by doing just 100% examination, do physical examination. But if there are scanners, scanner will point and show, no matter how you hide the ammunition, it will point to where it is sitting. So we need scanners at the port. Last 2 weeks, we invited the Controller General of Customs. I was the chairman in that committee meeting. He told us that Central Bank of Nigeria now has procured 4 scanners for them, though they have not been installed yet. So I think this is a step in the right direction. So we make sure also the border stations to have all these scanners. And there is something we are suggesting, the usage of technology, using drone to survey and monitor the border stations where it's impossible for officers to penetrate into. Drone will go there, search. If there's any activities going on, drone will show it.
To education, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, is insisting that the introduction of the use of National Identity Number NIN for the registration of the 2021 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination is aimed at checkmating examinational malpractices. Speaking in Abuja at a virtual meeting with proprietors of computer-based test centers and service providers, the registrar of JAMB, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, explains that the use of NIN as a prerequisite for registration is a directive from the Minister of Education. Professor Oloyede, while warning computer-based test center owners to desist from getting involved in illegal NIN registration, adds that the idea is also for security reasons.
Everybody who wants to register with us must have completed his registration with NIMC. All we need is your NIN. And once you give us the need, we continue from there. It's different from when we wanted to, one of the problems we saw last year was that we wanted to integrate the process of registration into our own system. And because of certain incompatibilities, it wasn't easy. So we have given a whole year for people to register on the name. All we require this year is a candidate to send his name to our own system, and that's all. We don't even require the name of the candidate. We just want the name. And once we take the name, we will then do the needful to pull the data of the candidates, and that's we go on from there. For us, at our own small level, it helps us to avoid impersonation. But there's a bigger picture of insecurity in the country, and you know that many of these problems we have is because we have identification problem. We cannot identify every citizen where he is and what he's doing.
When the News at 10 returns, ASR Africa Initiative, a brainchild of Abdul Samad Rabiu, donates 1 billion naira to Ahmadu Bello University as part of its yearly $100 million African Fund for Social Development. Plus, NNPC says ex-depot price of petrol remains unchanged pending the outcome of ongoing negotiations with organized labor and other stakeholders. That's on Business News. Please stay with us.
The Federal High Court sitting in Bauchi has delivered a landmark judgment in favor of 3 victims of police brutality and extrajudicial killing in the state. The court was convinced that 2 of the victims, Ibrahim Babangida and Ibrahim Somalia, were tortured to death by the police after being accused of allegedly stealing 24 chickens belonging to a retired police officer. The court therefore awarded the sum of 100 million naira each to the families of the deceased as compensation, while the only surviving victim was awarded 10 million naira compensation.
Events leading to Friday's judgment begins with allegations of chicken theft brought before the court on July the 21st, 2020, with 3 suspects arrested, detained and tortured by the police. One of the suspects, Abdul Wahab Bello, who now limps, narrates how he and 2 of his friends were tortured with a pestle by the former DPO of the Township Division A police station, Superintendent Baba Ali. 2 of the friends eventually died from the brutality. 5 months after the incident, a suit is filed at the Federal High Court, Bauchi, against Superintendent Baba Ali, Inspector General of Police, Commissioner of Police, Bauchi, and the Police Service Commission. The trial judge, Hassan Diko, delivers final judgment ruling that it was a clear case of extrajudicial killing. Families of the victims are awarded 100 million naira each as compensation to be paid to their mothers, while the only survivor, Bello, is to be compensated with the sum of 10 million naira.
The deceased were brutally killed by the police in contravention of the provisions of the Constitution.
The fact that you lost a case at the court of the first instance does not mean that that is just the end of the case. Definitely, we must go on appeal.
The families appeared satisfied with the judgment. The judgment may rekindle hope in the judicial system at a time when the call for an end to police brutality has been heightened.
2 other stories. The founder of Abdul Samad Rabiu Africa Initiative and the executive chairman and founder of Boer Group, Mr. Abdul Samad Rabiu, has provided a grant of 1 billion naira to Ahmadu Bello University as part of its yearly $100 million ASR Africa Fund for Social Development and Renewal. Making the donation on behalf of the founder, Boer's Director of Government Relations, Dr. Aliyu Hong, says the grant will be used for the provision of projects as identified by the university.
The chairman, Abdul Samad Rabiu, is happy for Ahmad Bello University to be the first port of call in the flag off of this intervention. Let me also say that today's ceremony in the hallowed hall of Ahmad Bello University is the first of many, which will form part of our education-based intervention for 2021 under the $100 million annual African Fund for Social Development of the Abdul Samad African Initiative, which you may call ASR Africa for short. As part of this program, the Abdul Samad Rabiu Africa Initiative is making the provision of a 1 billion naira grant each for Ahmad Bello University, as well as 5 other universities across the other geopolitical zones in Nigeria.
The House of Representatives Committee on Industry has commended the Bank of Industry, BOI, for its effective and varied support for businesses in the real sector of the Nigerian economy. The Chairman, House Committee on Industries, Honorable Dolapo Badru, recognized the bank's efforts during a meeting with the executive management of BOI at the bank's headquarters in Marina, Lagos. The lawmakers were on a 2-day visit to the bank as part of their oversight function on industries.
The National Assembly is primarily saddled with a responsibility to make laws, but more than that, the Constitution grants it the statutory grounds to request information, assess performance and investigate any matter. It's in partial fulfillment of this oversight function that a delegation of the House of Representatives Committee on Industries made a 2-day visit to the executive management of the Bank of Industry at its headquarters in Lagos. The purpose of their visit is clear: to assess and appraise the bank's activities and programs based on its mandate to transform Nigeria's industrial sector. After a 2-hour closed-door session appraising the bank's efforts and programs, the House Committee announces its position and feedback.
In this area of COVID, to see some entities making a lot of profits tells you how the management are doing a great work. We are trying now to tell them to now do better in the area of orientation so that more Nigerians can benefit.
In spite of the commendation, the bank's chief vows to take the feedback seriously.
It allows Nigerians to know that at least there is oversight. The bank has done well, we've grown the balance sheet, we've been able to do more interventions. Like they have said to us, well, you guys have done well, but you can do better. So we are taking the feedback and we are going to work on it.
The House Committee also inspected some of the key projects that the Bank of Industry has supported in Lagos.
Before now, we had intervention fund, and we have used that also to increase capacity.
I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased that the Bank of Industry came to be.
With the commendation and feedback, the Bank of Industry says it's fired up to take its support for the Nigerian industrial sector to the next level.
A federal high court sitting in Lagos has awarded a fine of 6 million naira as general damages against Ethiopian Airlines Limited for cancelling the flight of 3 Nigerians without due notice to the plaintiffs. Justice Adekunle Faji also awarded another sum of 1 million naira as cost for the action. The sums were awarded in favour of the plaintiffs, the Madakin Zauzau, Alhaji Munir Jafaru, his wife Hadizat Jafaru and their daughter Hafsat Jafaru for the hardship, stress and inconvenience caused them by the airline's cancellation of their flights without notice. Let's bring you some business news now. Here's Teniola Shibowale.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says it will maintain the current ex-depot price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, until ongoing negotiations with organized labor and other stakeholders are concluded. In a statement released today, the Group General Manager, Public Affairs of the NNPC, Kenny Obateru, says although the state-owned firm currently bears the burden of petrol subsidy, current price will be maintained at 162 naira per litre. This comes after the NNPC's Group's Managing Director, Melekiare, announced that it can no longer bear the cost of petrol subsidy. Meanwhile, the NNPC spokesman says the corporation has made arrangements for robust stock of petrol products at strategic depots across the country, and warns petroleum products marketers against hoarding or increase in the price of the commodity. Meanwhile, the price of oil on the international market has rebounded from plunge recorded on Thursday. This comes amid concerns that the blockage to the vital shipping lane, which was caused by a large container in the Suez Canal, may last for weeks, raising fears of tight supply. Brent crude price climbed by more than 4.23 to settle at $64.57 per barrel at 9:30 p.m. local time today, while US WTI crude jumped by 4.12% to $60.97 per barrel. However, despite the price recovery, both crude benchmarks are still headed for a third consecutive weekly loss. After another round of back-and-forth movement, the domestic stock market ends Friday's trading session southwards, following mild profit-taking on some of listed equities. Ini John Mekwa has a summary of today's activities at the NSE.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the enthusiasm for another positive close failed to materialize at the close of today's trading session on the NSE. And so we are back in the red again, but by marginal 2% drop in overall stocks performance. And this is because some investors decided to cash in on the recent gains recorded within the week. However, when you look at the sectoral performance of equities, you can see that it's quite mixed sentiment across board, with the banking, consumer and industrial goods recording some gains, while sell pressure dampened insurance as well as the oil and gas counter index. Well, the tussle between the bear and the bull has been more intense this week. But as the market ends today on a negative note, traders and analysts say there's still a silver lining ahead as they expect that the release of more earnings results will revive the market. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's Business News tonight. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Taniola. Still ahead on the news at 10. More than 30 people killed as 2 trains collide in Egypt, and more from our London studios and around the world in 5. Please stay with us. Egyptian authorities are investigating the cause of a passenger train collision in the central province of Sohag, in which 32 people were killed and several others injured. According to railway officials, the emergency brakes were activated on the train in front by unknown individuals, causing the train behind to crash into it. Let's head over to our London studios, where Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news on Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. At least 32 people have been killed and 66 injured after 2 trains collided in southern Egypt, the deadliest such incident in nearly 4 years. Pictures from the scene in the southern province of Sohag show train carriages derailed above a water channel with people trying to free passengers trapped inside. The health ministry said 32 people were killed in the collision. Train crashes aren't uncommon in Egypt, where the transport network is poorly funded and in need of maintenance. Friday's collision is the deadliest incident since August 2017, when 2 passenger trains collided near Alexandria, killing more than 40 people and injuring many more. New estimates suggest the stranded Ever Given mega container ship in the Suez Canal is holding up an estimated $9.6 billion of goods, and its removal might take weeks. Despite efforts to free the ship, experts say removing it might take several weeks, and international shipping companies have already started to seek alternative routes. According to Lloyd's List tracking data, there are more than 160 vessels waiting at either end of the canal. Some companies will be considering flying replacement merchandise for higher value products or transporting them via trains. European Union leaders have stopped short of banning vaccine exports after a protracted row with the Anglo-Swedish manufacturer AstraZeneca. At a summit, they gave backing in principle for toughening export controls, but a post-summit statement emphasised the importance of global supply chains needed to produce vaccinations.
The second quarter, what is committed?
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said AstraZeneca must catch up on the deliveries to the EU before exporting doses elsewhere. Vaccine rollouts in EU states have started sluggishly, with the bloc blaming pharmaceutical companies for not delivering promised doses. North Korea has claimed the missiles it launched on Thursday were a new type of tactical guided projectile in its first statement since the test. It was the country's first ballistic launch in almost a year and the first since Joe Biden became US president. Mr. Biden has said the US will respond accordingly. The US, Japan and South Korea have condemned the tests. Under UN Security Council resolutions, North Korea is banned from testing ballistic missiles. 3 people have been killed and many more wounded after Myanmar forces opened fire on anti-junta protesters waving black flags. At least 320 people have been killed in the crackdown on dissent since the February the 1st coup. That's according to figures compiled by the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners activist group. Organisers have called for widespread protests on Saturday, observed as Armed Forces Day, commemorating the start of the military's resistance to Japanese occupation in 1945. Clashes have erupted between hundreds of supporters of a Bangladesh Islamic group and police in Dhaka over the visit of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The violence escalated, with protesters throwing projectiles while police fired rubber bullets and used water cannon. The Islamist activists have been protesting since a week ago, accusing Mr. Modi of stoking religious tensions. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has said Eritrea will withdraw troops from its border with Ethiopia almost 5 months after a conflict started in the Tigray region. Mr. Abiy said the soldiers are there to back Ethiopia's government as it fought a group that challenged the central government's rule. Thousands have died in the conflict, that's according to human rights groups. Eritrea has not confirmed the troop withdrawal. An update from an international conservationist union has revealed Africa's elephants are more in danger than previously estimated. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature revealed that the ivory trade and the loss of vital habitat all contribute to the endangerment of both Africa's forest and savanna elephants. The IUCN estimates approximately 415,000 elephants remain in Africa today. And finally, meet the man who has spent decades fighting the desert. Yakuba Sawadogo has been bringing life back to the arid lands of northern Burkina Faso, earning the Champions of the Earth 2020 award from the United Nations Environment Programme for his efforts against climate change. Rather than flee the region like many other farmers, Mr. Sawadogo decided to see if he could improve on the local Zai technique of planting through the use of innovative methods and with the help of termites. The UN says although it is a labour-intensive technique, through his work, Mr. Sawadogo did massively increase production for local farmers. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The Super Eagles of Nigeria have arrived in Cotonou ahead of the African Nations Cup qualifier against Benin Republic on Saturday. The Eagles contingent left Lagos on Friday by boat and will stay the night in Cotonou before leaving for the match at the Charles de Gaulle Stadium in Porto Novo on Saturday morning. The 3-time African champions need just 1 point to book their place at the tournament in Cameroon next year, and the game will be played at 5 p.m. Nigerian time. The Lagos State government has announced that the AFCON qualifying match between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and Lesotho on Tuesday, March the 30th, is not open to the public and tickets will not be sold. This followed the order by the Confederation of African Football that the game at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Surulere be played under strict adherence to COVID-19 health protocols. The Benue State government is taking over part of the financial sponsorship of JAMB Liberty after the Makurdi-based football club gained promotion to the NNL, that's the Nigeria National League. While receiving the team in the State House, Governor Samuel Otom says there is nothing wrong if the state promotes more than one club beside the state-owned Lobby Stars. And that's a wrap in sports news. Back to you, Melissa.
Thanks, Tunde. And the main news again. The wife of abducted staff of Nigeria Meteorological Agency in Plateau State regained freedom today as Chief of Air Staff directed air tactical teams to provide aerial support for soldiers fighting bandits. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night. Stay safe.